Surviving the Job, EBulletin 1 from In the Line of Duty. Two veteran Chicago officers were shot, one of them murdered, during a prisoner escort wellness check at a hospital Saturday, April 25th, 2026. Were there tragic mistakes made? Did CPD protocol contribute to this horror story? Both. Here's what we know. What do you think? A Chicagoland Dollar General store is robbed at gunpoint earlier in the morning. Two men enter the store, one of whom has a backpack. When the female clerk asks him to put the backpack on the counter, in accordance with store policy, the second subject pulls a gun and strikes the woman across the face with it. After rifling through drawers, they ultimately end up taking the clerk's car keys from her purse and cash from a drawer, then bolt after striking the woman twice more with the gun. The clerk hit the panic button in the store and called police. Officers were able to track the suspect's movements via a GPS tracker contained within the stolen cash, and find it dumped into a trash can along with the car keys. Close to the scene, officers locate a man who claims he was calling an Uber. He also provided officers with a fake ID and false name. They also find a bundle of blood-stained cash in the man's pocket and see blood on his pants and shoes. After being placed in the back of a squad car, he tells police that he had swallowed multiple bags of narcotics and that he was having trouble breathing. Officers called paramedics and he was transported to a hospital. Two other officers escort the subject into the hospital. Upon arrival, he is put into a hospital gown, but allowed to keep his pants on, according to court documents. He is then handcuffed to a bed and covered with a blanket as he is transported to the CT area of the hospital. Surveillance video at the hospital shows him fidgeting underneath the blanket as he was moved through the facility and eventually wheeled into the CT room. Once there, Officer John Bartholomew, a 10-year veteran, uncuffed him from the bed and unshackled his legs to prepare him for a CT scan. It was at that point the suspect reached under the blanket, pulled out a firearm, believed to be the same gun from the armed robbery, and shot Bartholomew once in the head. He then turned and shot a 57-year-old CPD officer in the chin, with a bullet lodging in the back of that officer's neck. The fire alarm in the CT room goes off, and engineers investigating it found the suspect holding his gun, which he then pointed at them. He steals a work ID from one of the witnesses, allowing him to head toward the exit. He couldn't open a glass door used by employees to enter the hospital, and therefore fired shots, shattering the glass. He attempts to steal car keys from a hospital worker at that entrance, but the employee flees, along with a postal worker, according to prosecutors. The suspect then fled the hospital grounds naked and carrying his hospital gown and a firearm. He was located just over an hour later hiding under a porch, and he was taken into custody. What's known is that the two arresting officers had done a custodial search of the man, and he was later wanted at the hospital. As far as the custodial search, the Chicago FOP said, "Nobody knows what happened with that gun. Nobody knows if it was tucked in a fat fold or if it was tucked inside his body." Former Chicago Police First Deputy Superintendent Anthony Riccio said the search the officers conducted was very thorough, what the law allowed them to do. The officers have the right to go through a person's pockets to search their belt, to search their socks, their legs, their shoes, the contents of their shoes. And it ensures two things. It ensures, number one, Riccio said, that they don't have a weapon on them that can later hurt the officers. And it also ensures that they don't have any other contraband. He explained police officers are not allowed to search a suspect's genital area without probable cause, a judge's approval, and medical supervision. You can't search the private parts of anybody in your custody without first obtaining a search warrant, Riccio said. Later, it was determined the man had been on pre-trial release for multiple pending violent cases. He had also been wearing an ankle monitor, but had been able to circumvent it at least twice. The second officer, a 23-year veteran, is recovering, and although not yet able to speak, is reportedly gaining mobility and conscious. Now, questions. Knowing the subject had likely committed a violent armed robbery, would you have patted him down at least twice by the time he arrived at the hospital? Especially if you were aware he probably had a gun during the armed robbery. A report from ABC 7 said the individual was likely searched 3 times, but that has not been verified. Was there any way officers could have also determined the man had multiple felony charges pending? Would your department protocol have prohibited you from doing a body search, i.e., the genital and or buttocks areas? Do you believe Chicago officers had probable cause to do a genital search? Exactly what would you, as one of the arresting officers, have informed the 2 cops who brought the subject into the hospital? Would you have alerted them about the man's blatant lies about his reasons for being in the location and his identity? From your experience, how often has a violent offender or likely perpetrator of a felony lied about having ingested drugs or some other fake malady so he or she could be taken to a hospital rather than jail? Would you have allowed him to keep his pants on or had him stripped naked? Why wasn't he stripped completely under close observation and put into a hospital gown? He was seen fidgeting under the blanket. Would those fidgety movements have alerted you to something potentially nefarious and dangerous? The hospital said the subject had been wanded upon his arrival and nothing was detected. Would you say perhaps the wand may need to be investigated for technical issues? From what you have read and heard in this e-bulletin, what do you feel are the most important lessons to be learned? Will this tragic story affect your tactical approach in potentially similar incidents in the future?